everyone. Welcome to a new episode of One Vision. This is Theo, your host for the episode, and I'd like to welcome back Chris Juneau, SVP, Head of SAP Concur Product Marketing, to our show. Hello, Chris, again.
Hello, Theo. Great to be here with you again.
This is fun. I loved our chit chat before and after the recording, and I'm sure today is going to be another round of fun. So, thank you so much again for spending time with us. Now, last time when we chat, you shared with us some results from the SAP Concur CFO Insights report. We also talked about the impact of AI in finance. I feel like we cannot escape that word lately, and how we're moving from expense reporting to exception reporting. And I love that line. So today we will shift our gears a little bit and talk about payments. Another favorite topic I know that we do share. Now, earlier this year, SAP announced a relationship with MasterCard that looks to simplify expense process, improve compliance, and customer experience. Tell us a little bit more about that and why is that important?
Great. Happy to, Thea. So we're on a journey to deliver the expense report that practically manages itself. So we have a shared vision and integration with MasterCard. That's a key element of delivering on that vision. Now I'll elaborate a bit. Through this new global integration, when an employee who's using, their company's MasterCard corporate card, makes a purchase, swipes or taps, that transaction data immediately begins populating the expense report, creating the expense in Concur Expense. And just like things all driven by data, it will alert the user if there's additional details that might be required. So we're working with MasterCard to provide travel and finance managers. In addition to that, we're working with MasterCard to provide travel and finance managers with even more spending controls to drive expense policy compliance. The net with all of this, delivering a better experience for the users, richer data, and at the moment that matters, when that purchase occurs, alerting the users like, hey, looks like you took someone out to dinner since I see this was a restaurant receipt. Would you like to add their attendee information now? So that's one of many examples that we have with our MasterCard partnership.
I like that last part, especially coming from corporate life for years. I dreaded. Remember those days? You wait until after the trip. You go to the office and you're like, wait a minute, who was there again? What did we do? Right?
What did we talk about? Yeah, exactly.
And it's
Totally.
painful. It is so painful. It's like, and we all dreaded that. Like, why do we have to do this? So anything to make that process simpler, easier, and like you say, at the moment that matters.
That's right.
That's right. Like magic. It's amazing.
It's goodness. Goodness for everyone.
It is goodness for everyone. Now, you mentioned that you're on a journey to deliver expense report that practically manages itself. This is like continuation of the goodness.
Right.
What does that entail? What exactly does that mean? And how are you bringing that vision to life?
Great question. So especially the word practically, because what may be practical to one organization, depending on for our chit chat prior to the podcast, may not be practical to another one. One in financial services may have a different view versus a technology company due to their regulations and so forth and how they have to operate. So we allow our customers to define what practically means. And we're, as we now said, our vision at Fusion this past March, we're working on making it reality right now. So we're reimagining the Concur expense experience. And of course, it's AI powered, which we have been powering various services in Concur Expense for the last 10 years with AI and machine learning. Second, but it's going to be optimized for mobile. And we have some great examples I'll share with you. And third, it's already being used by early adopter customers. It's actually in production being used by early adopters. And so with this reimagined experience, we're looking for an opportunity for expense reports to automatically create themselves and be easily managed. And here's a few examples. So as I mentioned, with this rich data coming in from MasterCard and also the digital receipts that we already have, we can automatically begin creating expense entries. Excuse me. And then also facilitate itemization. You probably remember itemizing your hotel, the dreaded hotel itemization. We're doing that today with Expensive. But another innovation we're doing is we call it the timeline on the mobile app. Meaning as you look at your expense report, it's like show what expenses you have by day and time. Because how many times like, did I expense that taxi? Did I expense that ride share? I knew when I went to Orlando on Monday, my driver picked me up, dropped me to the airport. So now with the timeline on my mobile, I can see, oh, at a glance, here's all your expenses according to the timeline of your travel. Third, as I mentioned earlier, the attendee suggestion, which, as you said, looks like you went to an expensive dinner. I'm sure you had colleagues with you or customers. Would you like to add their names in now versus getting back on a Friday night, trying to remember who was at dinner, who was there? And then last, with that rich information, we call it real-time authorization data that we're receiving from MasterCard to again, another element of driving the automated expense creation process.
I remember those. And I remember also so many instances we will have a meal. Do you split it? Do I expense it? You expense it. And all of this
That's
is
right.
just, it's unnecessary, right? You want to focus on
Yeah,
what you need to do, not the extra stuff, even though extra
not the
stuff is
extra stuff.
important.
Yeah, it's the moment that matters.
It is the moment that matters. You said it twice already. I do like that. So let's talk about payment methods. Since
Hmm.
we do both travel for work quite a bit, what type of payment methods come into play in business travel, and what do you recommend companies use?
Options for companies to choose from based on their size and their banking relationships and so forth. And each have unique benefits. So, virtual cards can make purchases fast and simple, reducing fraud, increasing purchase controls. They've been available for years for corporates to use. Then there's, the traditional issuing what we call walking plastic or the physical credit card to employees. And many organizations, certain larger enterprises, will have centralized billing, and meaning where the bill is automatically paid, so they get rebates from the card issuer and so forth, but it's still up to the user to reconcile those expenses and so forth. But then we see with smaller organizations, small businesses with tighter cash flows, they're many times using their own personal cards to essentially float their company for periods of time. And then last, of course, some employees just want to use their personal card because they want the points based on with their corporation. So it varies by company, by size, by ultimately objective that they're trying to solve. So there's many options available, and they're continuing to grow for organizations.
I remember also those days. Gosh, I'm dating myself. This was from a long time ago, where we used to have P card and T card. So you have a credit
Ah,
card for purchase, right? And one for
yep, yep,
travel. Oh
yep.
my God. I always messed up and I always get yelled at. Like,
Pull the wrong one out of your wallet. No,
right?
it's true, and that's right. Regardless of payment method, having an automated expense management system is paramount because you've got to integrate, that travel payment with an expense management so it captures in one place. And that way, organizations can track every dollar that's spent. It's easier to analyze and identify opportunities for cost savings because, the old euphemism, you cannot control what you cannot measure or cannot see. And so with Concur Expense, we capture spend at the source and drive additional visibility into that transaction and gives the key stakeholders, typically finance and accounting, the key information so they understand how their programs are working. And best of all, combining those multiple payment options with automated expense report, employees are reimbursed significantly faster. And that's, and because again, transactions are automatically being created on behalf of that employee. Now we're asking we can, with the power of AI, have the employee be prompted for additional information at that time of swipe or tap. And then third, with all this additional rich data that we have, both digital receipts from suppliers and so forth, we can bring that all together with one expense management process. And of course, with all of that rich data, it feeds back virtually into the AI models.
And not to mention less prone for mistakes because you already have something that's checking in the background,
Exactly.
right?
But we always said keystrokes are the how do you God, this now I'm having to go back in the Wayback Machine. But the last thing you want is keystrokes. Keystrokes introduce human error.
Yes, absolutely. Every single additional step you need people to do to type, it
That's right.
can introduce an error, right? We're
That's
not
right.
perfect. We're pretty perfect, but we're not perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. So, let's look back at the last few years. Sometimes we're looking back a few years, even looking back a few months feels like a few years. But if we look
True,
back at the
true, true,
last
true,
few years,
true.
it's been very, very, very interesting to say the least. Let's say from 2020 to now. I can't believe it's been 4 years. But,
I know.
looking at, right? It's been a while. Looking at how business travel has changed, has
Hmm. Hmm.
rebounded.
Hmm.
Also, have you noticed anything different in terms of how business travelers are making purchases? Where are they doing? What are they going, etc.?
Absolutely. Certainly on how they're making the purchases. So the pandemic undoubtedly accelerated the acceptance of digital payments for both point of sale and also from an invoicing perspective. And now you combine that with AI automation, virtual payments are continuing to grow. In fact, the global virtual card market is expected to triple by 2030, according to Vantage Market Research. And these virtual payment methods are also transformative to the financial operations of an organization. They eliminate the need to share sensitive credit card details with vendors or use the same card for all payments. So as you were, and look at the example that you said, T card versus a P card and so forth. You eliminate that. And then rather using that company card, finance teams can now generate a unique virtual card which may be linked to an existing part somewhere within their organization, but putting them in the hands of that traveler at the right time, at the right moment. And in doing so, they gain greater control and ultimately visibility in terms of the spending. And more companies are opting not to hand out that plastic credit card. And instead, because it takes time to manage, you know, employees make mistakes and so forth. Instead, they can be more purposeful via virtual cards.
I think I can see that even on personal travels,
Right.
right? I do prefer if I can just have a device, everything in there. That's way easier than having to take out a card and tap.
Card,
Right. Yeah.
whether it be your watch, whether it be your phone, whatever's on your person at that time.
It feels like we're just making everything go faster. So you enter the data faster, you get the insights faster, you react faster, you make changes faster. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, so if you have a magic wand, I'm curious, what is the one thing you wish you could change with business travel? Go faster?
I think go faster. I think it goes back to what you were saying, and I cannot think of another process where, or at SAP Concur, where we're building applications, where we want users to spend the least amount of time within the application. Everything else is grabbing attention, right? Time on, being in the app and so forth. Instead, I would love if we could almost completely remove humans from the expense report creation and approval process. So, we want to create the expense report that practically manages itself, that creates itself. So business travelers can focus on most important when they take their trip, supporting their customers, generating new business, retaining their customers they have, while doing it in an efficient and compliant way. Because you said faster, faster, faster. What we're really trying to do is just give time back. If there's one, of course, if I had a second wish from this magic one, it'd be, hey, could I create more time? But since I'm only with one wish, can I just, have less human interaction, intervention into this financial process? And again, you combining all these virtual payments we've been talking about, all these multiple payment methodologies, combine that with generative AI, we truly have an opportunity to transform expense management. Because with AI, awesome at analyzing vast amounts of data, think about it, ensure compliance and expedite the potential reimbursement of that employee. Everybody wins.
It's a win-win. And like you say, I think the most important thing is this is a tool, right? It's a tool to
That's
enable
right.
them to do what they need to do, which is
That's right.
get new business, generate new business, reconnect to with consumers. I mean, there are customers, and
That's right.
whatever the goal for the trip is, and
Yeah.
then you provide the tool for them to manage that process and to keep costs under control, keep them in compliance, and keep everyone happy.
Well said.
I learned it from you. So thank you, Chris. This has been fun. We only managed to say the AI word a couple times, but I think we got
I
to the
know.
point we need.
We weren't playing AI bingo today.
That wouldn't be a hard thing to do. Until next time, thank you so much again for joining us on the show. And for the rest of our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of One Vision. We will talk to you all next week.